Welcome back. And just in case you're just joining us, Mr. Ekpo Nta, Chairman ICPC, is our guest on this episode of Question Time. We'll be looking at how the culture of impunity could be deterred in Nigeria. How do you see the anti-corruption posture of the present administration of President Muhammadu Buhari?
Whatever ups the ante in the fight against corruption, particularly the institutional approach, we definitely would be in complete agreement with taking it forward. So not just the present government's desire, it has become the desire of every citizen in this country that the nagging issue of corruption should be brought to its knee.
Now, what's your assessment in the implementation of the national budget?
You know, the implementation of the budget is largely done, well, the assessment and the monitoring of the implementation of the budget is largely done by the legislature, the National Assembly and the various houses of assembly, state houses of assembly. For you to get a true picture, it's from there that you monitor what is going on through their oversight functions. But we do have reports from the Auditor General of the Federation. You know, he has to lay his report, not to ICPC, but to the National Assembly. And at the state level, he lays it before the state houses of assembly. We had started from 2 years ago to have an interface with the National Assembly Committee dealing with this, that we would like to see those audited reports and work on certain outcomes. And we've been doing some of those investigations on those aspects. So it has started reducing. We can see evidence that we're making some good gains. Before now, at the end of the financial year, ICPC used to go around all the MDAs to look at the leftover funds, which probably had not been sent back to government coffers. And we did a lot of recoveries, but thank God we now have what we call the GiveMe's, the electronic platform, which shows clearly that this fund is not there or it is here.
How do you deal with financial inducements within your corporate entity of the ICPC?
One or two persons who have tried it from outside, they are facing the courts now. They are facing the court because one interesting one happened that they were given an account to pay the money into, thinking it was a private account. They didn't know it was our recovery account. And when we issued the receipt, that dawned on the person what we are here for.
Isn't that risky for the ICPC? What if the corporate turns around to accuse the ICPC of complicity?
When people are crazy to do things, they don't think. That's the irony of it. And don't forget that in most investigative agencies, the first excuse when somebody sees that he cannot really get off the hook is to allege all kinds of imputations.
Would you be looking at the case of the NNPC unremitted funds?
There are agencies that are responsible under their mandate for looking at issues like that.
Could you shed more light on the arrest of 4 directors in the Ministry of Niger Delta by the ICPC over allegations of embezzlement of 605 million naira?
It's already in the court. If you had asked me this before I went to court, I probably would have been able to discuss more.
The public feels the ICPC is stepping up its operations now. Is it about this new administration of President Muhammadu Buhari?
We have always done what we should do. So I'm happy that they're saying we have stepped up, which is an acknowledgement that a lot had been going on,
What's your view on immunity of public officers and some highly placed heads of institutions?
Immunity does not cover or bring to an end criminal investigation. There is no act in existence today that says you cannot investigate anybody. What it says that you cannot prosecute a sitting official at certain levels. But in terms of that, you can get away with it, no? No. And we have been doing that. We have.
Now, let's look at corruption in the aviation sector. Many have said that that's a sector where corruption stinks to the high heavens, if you permit me to use that expression. So what's the ICPC doing in this regard?
The very first contact a foreigner has with your country is at the international airport. And the impression he takes away from there would decide for him what that country should be assessed. And so we had taken steps to address that issue. And I'm very happy that when we started that exercise, I got together all the agencies working at the airport: Customs, Immigration, FAN, NDLA, Plant Quarantine, in fact, all the agencies. And we had this charter and agreement that we must change our attitude in terms of what some people would call low-level corruption at the airport. But this so-called low-level corruption determines the fate of our corporate image. And we did sensitization December last year, and we told them we would be coming. Maybe they did not believe, because after 1 month, 2 months, they didn't see anything happening, or so they thought. They didn't know we were doing underground surveillance. And so in March, we effected public arrest at the airport. And that sent the message that I needed to be sent.
So what's the ICPC doing in terms of fast-tracking of prosecution?
Well, you see, the major function of anti-corruption agencies and the police is to get you into court so that we don't become persecutors. We take whatever we find to the court and let the courts decide on whether there is merit in this matter or not.
I'd like you to comment on the recent headlines making rounds about your promise to stem the operations of the financiers of terrorism.
Whoever couched that must have couched it in error, because I do remember I had a meeting with the chief compliance officers of banks, and I had said clearly there that the ongoing exercise of biometric capture of all bank customers will aid anti-corruption agencies in tracing fraudsters who use the banking sector to dupe innocent persons. And I said that because you've been asked to pay money into an account because you saw it on Facebook that I'm selling a car. And so pay 1 million to this account in the bank. And you pay and you don't see the car, you don't see the person. He cuts off his phone lines. And I go to the bank and I say, I want the mandate card of the owner of this account. I'm given the mandate card, and I go to the address on the mandate card, and it is in the market square. And no fingerprints were taken, so I cannot compare that against existing database. So with the ongoing exercise, when you tie that up with the national identity card, tie that up with the driver's license, you tie that up with the voter's registration, there's a strong likelihood that I should be able to trace who these fraudsters are.
Now, before we wind down this conversation, how do you manage your social life? How do you unwind without getting yourself in compromising situations? This is rather a tightrope, isn't it?
Well, you know, I'm a very sad person because I grew up in a country where we had the best of schools going on, the best of hospitals, the best of recreational facilities. We could travel to any part of the country at any time of the day or night. And now we're faced with this kind of situation. So each time you think of relaxing, the first thought that comes to you is that, have you finished getting the country back to what it used to be? What's your experience when you go to hospitals? Do you know you could actually stand there and not be attended to and drop dead? That is not the country I want. I want to have a peaceful country where I can get into my room and sleep. And so if this is the last things we're going to do to salvage the country for the oncoming generations, we have to put in the very best we have to do. As a person, unfortunately, I am not given to public socialization and attending parties. I'm very sure if you ask anybody, you would never find me in such environments, and my needs are very, very, very simple.
Mr. Ekpo Nta, thank you very much for joining us on this episode of Question Time. It's really amazing bringing us into the world of fighting corruption in this country. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
And that's as much as we can take on this episode of Question Time. You may also send us a comment on our various social media platforms showing on your screen. Join us next week on another exciting episode of the show on Channels Television. Many thanks for watching. I'm Benga Ashiru saying goodbye.